Alberta Eileen Flowers, born Friday, July 13, 1934, to Herschel and Monty Flowers. Mom often joked about her birthday. She was born on Friday the 13th. She was born in Illinois. Her mom and dad moved to Illinois about 1924 when her mom's family, including her grandfather and grandmother. Her grandfather was Christopher Columbus Ashenhurst, and her grandmother's name was Julia Ashenhurst. They moved along with several uncles and aunts to Illinois. Mom had 4 brothers and 5 sisters. All were born in Christian County, Illinois, except for her oldest sister, Edith, and her youngest brother and sister, John and Viola. I videotaped Mom on 2 different occasions, in 2000 and also in 2002. We talked about a little bit about everything, including her childhood. She talked about courtship with Dad, when they got married, and the farm, the history of the farm where all of her kids were raised.
Year was it we made that other tape?
That's just last year, or it might have been this year.
For you was laying on my hospital bed that sat over there.
Been 2 years ago? Been that long?
You was laying on that hospital bed listening to it and
It
everything.
wasn't this year. It's been last year.
I don't know. I said, I can't even remember when I had my heart surgery. I don't know where it's 2000 or 2001.
2001. Because this makes this come up to be your second winter since then, because it's during the winter when you done it.
Uh-huh.
Or just before. Oh.
No, it's in January 22nd.
Yeah, it's after Christmas. Yeah, they wait until after Christmas. So it'd be his in 2002 then, or 2001, January 2001.
Well, I know it wasn't 2002 for that, just this last spring.
At the age of about 10 years old, her family moved to Possum Trot, Tennessee, until the tenants moved out of the home her mother was raised in. Now she was going to be raised in the same house as her mother was raised in. Didn't they live in Possum Trot
Yeah,
for a while?
yeah. And I said I wished I could remember them Woods' girl's name.
Who's that?
A family that lived close to us,
Down there?
down in Possum Trot.
Where did they live down? That's when they came back to Illinois, wasn't it?
Yeah, they come back from Illinois. Well, see, at Georgia Flowers, Mitchell, some of them had the house down there, and they had it for so long. And so he went on to Tennessee, Dad did, and got a job down in there and working, and it, until they got out of the house. Well, now where we lived at, we didn't live on a hill. We lived down close to a creek.
Yeah, must have been down the bottom.
Mm-hmm. And then Wood just lived on the other side of the creek, right close.
It's not very big. I mean, it's had to be right in there somewhere.
And that them girls, there was 3 of them. And they'd get out playing, they'd stick their dress down in their panties. And I done that one day, and boy, Mom blistered me. But they done that so they wouldn't get their dress dirty or tear it. And I thought that's kind of funny. And one day Mom needed some salt, and she sent me across a foot log, and I was scared to death to go across that foot log. And I went over and borrowed some salt from them, and then I had to take it back when she got some. And that old man went and filled my jar full of little tomato tomatoes. Boy, was they good. I said, I never will forget them tomatoes, how good they tasted. They don't taste that good now. I don't know where it was that I hadn't had any for a good while or what it was, but anyway, that them tasted real good. Yeah, we had a dog growing up named Rover. And I remember Dad had a pile of lumber out there fixing to build a chicken house or something other out there in the wood yard. And the dog was out there at it, and he got snake bit. He swelled up like I don't know what. And Mom sent some of them out to get some kookaburra leaves. And she bruised them up real good and then poured them, let them sit in milk and give it to the dog. And it got okay. I said, I wouldn't know they'd done that. Us kids was thinking he's gonna die because he got snake bit. And that they got out there and they killed 2 or 3 big snakes out of that lumber yard. See, us kids have been out there playing on it that morning when he got bit, before he got bit.
What kind of snakes?
Copperheads.
What about cats? Any cats around?
Yeah. Have to fight them off the table, didn't have screen doors.
Oh, they come in the house?
Yeah. Well, they was in the house much as they was outside. See, nothing, the wooden door would be hot in the summertime and have to have it opened. And they'd come in. But it didn't take long to learn them not to get up on the table much when they come in the house. Hitting them and kicking them and everything else that they learned not to.
Dogs come in the house?
No, that Scoble hit and he'd stay out. As best I remember. Now, Hit might have come in. Well, now I know when it's real bad weather, we'd bring Rover in of a morning and let him lay by the fireplace to get warmed up. But you'd take him in there and tell him to lay down, he'd lay down, and he wouldn't get up till you told him to. I know me and Bill's done that many a times.
Was he the one that had the dog that was supposed to go tell what cow you wanted, he'd go get it? Did you ever hear that story?
No, that's another dog.
Oh, okay.
I think, I ain't sure. You'd call it by name and he'd go get it. Well, now, we had a dog that would go get the cows, but he'd bring them all up. Unless there's one would stray away out from him, but he'd bring up most of them. And the one was in front's the one you called. You call it and tell him to go get the cows. He'd go. And that's old Ginger.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm. It might have been Ginger that Mom done that for her. She had him, she gave him to us. And she said, no, I don't guess it was though, for she's talking about hating him so. Only one I remember is Rover. We was out playing handy over and we'd holler over and he'd come to us. The dog would. I reckon he thought we was calling him. We used to play handy over the house a lot.
Play what?
Play handy over. One be on one side and throw it over and everything. And then if they caught it, they'd run around and try to catch you. You never.
Call that? Yeah, I know somebody.
Handy over.
When Mom was attending school, it was a norm to go only to the 8th grade and then graduate. You weren't required or expected to go much further than the 8th grade.
And that there's a school back over on the hill that we used to go to. And that was Evans School. We went there 2 years, I believe it was, 2 or 3. We had to walk for 2 miles there and 2 miles back.
You go every day?
No, not hardly. But I went some. I went there one day when I shouldn't, I guess. For this big frost on, I had a sore on my foot, and I couldn't wear my shoes, and I had to go to school barefoot in that frost. I'd leave tracks in it. And I tell you, my feet was cold when I got to the schoolhouse. I was about 15. They brought me up here to Doc Hay. I passed out at school. Never did know what.
Is that right?
Mm-hmm. My head and throat was hurting me that morning, and Mom said, well, you'll need to stay at home. And I started crying, wanting to go to school. She said, well, go on. And then when I passed out, they went and he said, Roster Garner had his bicycle there, and they sent him out to get Raymond to take me home. And Raymond come out there and seen me, they said, and said he headed back home and got Dad in his car. He come out there in the truck. And he told the teacher, said, she don't need to go home, said she needs to go to a doctor. They said my eyes was bugged out of my head.
Well, you take up the doctor.
Uh-huh. And he thought I had polio. And I said, we sure had some good times, Adam, going to school back then. You made up your games you played. You didn't have something other to play with. Well, now, they always got us a volleyball to play, and I don't know who it was furnished the baseball when they played baseball. And I used to love to play volleyball. Well, I didn't mind playing baseball either. But volleyball was my thing. I loved it. Uh-huh.
Played volleyball back then?
Yeah. Volleyball and baseball. And tag. Back then, Raymond Carver's on one had our vehicle around in there for miles. He had a big old stock truck, and he'd load people up and take them down and let them out, and he'd tell them where he was going to be at at a certain time. And you had to be there that time.
When was that up in the 40s?
Yeah. Late 30s and 40s. He's still doing that when I got married in 49. And what do you think about riding the back end of a truck and hit 8 degrees? You had to. That truck was just almost full of people and hit the 8 degrees of going to town. He had a tarpaulin up, it knocked part of the wind off, but it didn't knock all the cold out.
I don't imagine it went very fast, did it?
Uh-uh.
Roads back then. So you have to go and be outside.
Mm-hmm. And get out down there at the river and have to sit for hours sometimes before you get across the river on the ferry, isn't it? James took all of us out one day, and he had got lost. He thought he knew exactly where it was, and we drove around ever so long before we run into it. He's wanting to take you kids across the ferry.
What else did you told me once before something about you used to play up on that hill up there. What did you do, slide? Yeah. Slide down the hill or make the hill.
Yeah, we'd make us sleds, and we'd get up on top of the hill and come running over, and sometimes if we didn't turn to make it stop, we'd jump the branch and hit the garden fence. Well, I've even got up there and got in the tire and come over the hill. Just around and around I'd go. And I wonder if I hadn't fell out of it, but I didn't.
Was it easy by the time I got to the bottom?
Uh-uh. If I was, I don't remember it. And in the summertime, we'd have us a truck wagon. We'd saw out some wooden wheels and fix up, put them on an axle, and get a board and nail to the back, and then have a hole in the center, in the front, and I had a big old nail or pin, I forget now what it was in it. And see the wheels, front wheels, you can cut it this way or that way with your feet. And nowadays, kids have to sit and watch television. They can't play nothing.
There were little conveniences when Mom and Dad first bought the small 45-acre farm in Cumberland County, Kentucky. She says that there was electric, but there was no phone, there was no running water. The water had to be carried up from the spring. And one of the first electrical appliances was the electric stove that Dad bought.
I don't think we did. Yeah, we did too, when we moved down on that farm. If I ain't badly mistaken. And you had to pay $5 a month whether you used it or not for so many years. And just before the time was up, I had to pay $5 a month, he got the electric cooking stove. And see, that run it up a little over $5, the electric cook stove did.
How'd you like that electric cook stove?
It's good.
Was you working anywhere?
Mm-mm.
Working on the farm?
Just a farm. Well, I started working in '66 at the shirt factory. And see, I'd been sick and been in the hospital, and he had been in the hospital, had his eye took out.
We'll hear that. I'll go ahead and turn it off while you're talking.
Yeah. Did I hit that thing? I hope I didn't hit it and tear it up.
I can still hear you pretty good.
It's been 119 in there in the kitchen when it's canning. And I'd put up a sheet over the door that goes into the living room from the dining room. James said, just there. I said, well, if you want it to be as hot in here as it is in the kitchen, I'll just take it down. And he went in the kitchen to get him a drink. And he said, how can you stand it in there? I said, "I'd smothered to death." I said, I haven't yet. He said he'd smothered to death if he had been there a few minutes. But now see, I'd have to go in and put wood in the stove and to keep it a-going, and then go in and take out the stuff out of the things when they cooked long enough. Used to cook them 3.5 hours. You remember putting out strawberries down there? I don't know, we had a pretty good patch.
Well, I think that's too little. I think, I guess I picked some.
Picked some and ate them anyway. I know that when we got done a picking, see, he'd get some to Happy, and when we got done, the market closed on them, and he'd let the ones that picked, Happy pick his strawberries, and he'd let them come in and pick them berries. There's one woman come in there and got her 4 gallon. But she just about had them as them going to waste. And Herman Hill, he hit pick, and he come down there, and he picked some, and he come back, he wanted to pay me for them. I said, well, Herman, I said that he's giving the ones that hit pig berries, I said he's letting them pick berries for themselves. He said, oh. Well, you make wine now, but you don't have to have a still to make it. You make it out of your blackberries. Let them sour is what I call it. Let them sit on for 7 or 10 days. You pick your blackberries and pour water over them. And let them sit for 7 or 10 days, and then drain the juice and squeeze it out, and then throw the seed away. And then you put the sugar in it and let it sit. I don't know how long you let it sit, but anyway, it tasted pretty good. I used to make that and take it from my stomach. I might order 2 again. Wilma Scott told me about that. I was having an awful lot of problems with my stomach, and I couldn't eat nothing hardly. And she said, why don't you take you some wine? Get you some blackberry wine? I said, I don't know nobody's got any. She said, well, I've got some. And see, that was in the wintertime. And I asked her how you made it. And then that summer, I made me some. And that wine helped me a lot better than anything that the doctor had given me for my stomach. I know I went up here to the sheriff's office and got some whiskey. That they'd let you have it where they're confiscated. They'd let you have it if you took a jar up there and you had you some honey or lemon juice or something like that, had that in it. They'd finish the jar or how much you wanted in it. And I didn't know you could do that, and they said you could. And I tried it, and I did.
Well, now, how old were you when you got married?
15.
So you was done out of school then, weren't you?
No.
I thought you only went to 8th grade.
Well, I wasn't out. For that one year, they kept us out of school and we didn't go to school. Then there's a year that we went and we didn't learn nothing, so we had to take the same grade back the next year. Teacher wouldn't try to teach us anything. Well, he'd come in about 9 o'clock and then he'd go home about 2. And see, it's supposed to be in there at 8, start at 8 and turn out at 4. But he'd turn out at 2. He's just there barely half over what he was supposed to be. And some days he didn't come in at all.
What did you do on those days?
The other teacher appointed someone to take over the small grades, and she got the big grades.
What y'all do when you first got married? Was that you eloped or what?
Yeah, I eloped.
How did you plan on it?
Well, we just talked over one weekend, planned it, and then next weekend slipped off. And the ones that was going to take was sitting up there waiting in the car. And about the time they thought I should be leaving there, they heard shots. The shotgun shot 3 different times. But it was on out down the hall or further. And they said, oh no, said they've got them.
Who married you?
We went to some church up there in Jamestown, Kentucky. Dr. Lawrence was the one to give us our blood test. And we went in there that night and they wouldn't wake him up or nothing, said he was asleep. And he said, now if anybody else comes from down there in Cumberland County, he said, you tell them tear this house down or get me up one. See, his maid wouldn't wake him up. Said, you'll have to come back in the morning. We went back over there the next morning about 8 o'clock or so. Still he hadn't come out.
What did you just sneak out of the house or what?
Yeah. See, I slept upstairs and that evening I went and got part of my clothes. I didn't get them all. Ready to go in it.
Were you afraid you'd get in trouble?
No.
You didn't plan on coming back home?
Not for a little while. Well, that's the way a lot of the girls done back then. I had a cousin that she slipped off and got married when she was 13. And see, we went to Indiana. No, see, that was when we went to Indianapolis. See, we was in Richmond, Indiana there when we got married, went there. And that he got him a job, and then he lost it in March. They laid off a big bunch. And so we come back to Kentucky. But he went out and bought a car. He had the neighbor take him out. He looked at a car and he bought it. And that neighbor said, well, said, I never heard of that before. Said, go and buy in a car when you get laid off. And then James drove it from Indiana.
How long did y'all court?
let's see, a year and something other.
Oh, that's long.
Mm-hmm. What did I do, move over out of the way?
No, it's all right. Just checking it.
Mm-hmm.
For sure. Well, let me ask you this: Did you know Daddy when he was real little? I mean, how long did you know him for? Or how did you meet, or how did you ever know?
Well,
or know he was around?
met at church. Going to church. See, over in Vice and Beulah, went to church after Vincent school with us. Then said we'd walk. Everybody walked to church back then, and that get a talking and going along the road. And well, see, we had milk, and then we'd be 3 or 4 of us that was milking, and that have to wash all them buckets and clean them up before we went out to the cornfield and everything. And then finally he didn't, there wasn't so many of us milking, they milked more cows. One would milk more cows. And he had to get a cooler to put the milk in at that time to keep it cool till they come and got it. Get up and milk a bunch of old cows, then get out in the fields 6:30 or 7 o'clock. And that was a job, straining all that milk and getting all them milk buckets and everything washed up. I believe it's 6th grade. Yeah, for he's in the 7th grade, and that he didn't make nothing on his test or nothing, didn't do nothing. And the teacher wrote me a letter about she thought he ought to stay back, and that I just sat down and wrote her one back. I said, well, I wasn't looking for him in the past. I said, I thought that he'd have to stay back. I said, no better grades he made. I said, I've been checking on all of his grades all year. And she had to go tell everybody. Said everybody else fussed on her because they kept their kid back. Said, but I didn't. And then after that, he made straight A's. Well, after Vincent, he didn't learn nothing just to have 1 class a day. I said, well, I'd rather for him to stay back in this grade than it would to get in high school and have to. And he sure done a lot better. He was making D's and F's, and then after he went and took that over, he made A's and B's. And he done good through high school too. And so and she seen him up at Lexington when he was in school, and she talked to him about that. And then I don't know where I was at, and she was there, and I never even thought about her being there. And she had to talk about it. Merle, I believe. I ain't gonna say for sure, but I think that's who it was.
Where was Clara? Was anything particular about when Clara was born, or had go the same way when David was born?
No, we lived in Indianapolis when Clara was born. She was born in Indianapolis. She was the only one that wasn't born in Kentucky.
Okay, I think it was when Carol was born. Y'all was living down on the creek again.
No, we was living down on Raymond Carver's down below Vincent Graveyard.
Okay.
And that big log house down there. And David Harrod, he'd swallowed the penny, and his grandpa had been up to the store, and he come back by and stopped, and he wanted him to go home with him. I said, no, I'm not letting him go. I said, he swallowed, no, it wasn't a penny, it was a nickel. I said, he swallowed something, nickel or a penny, one of which. And I said, he swallowed that, and I said, he don't go until that passes. I said, he'd stand right here. And he went out there in the chimney corner and stayed out there until it come through him. He said, "Can I go home, Grandpa?" I said, "I haven't seen that money yet." He said, "It's out there." And I went out and looked, and it was. He'd held it back. He wouldn't go to the bathroom for there, I don't know, 3, 4 days or maybe more, I don't know. And I was ready to give him a enema or something other, make him go. And some of them said, if he swallowed something, said, "Don't do that." Said, "It'd be so thin, it'll still stick in there." And so I wouldn't. I'd have him, try to get him to go to out and every morning and every evening, but he wouldn't do it. And see, Mr. Hardin, he went and took him on home with him then. And then about 2 o'clock the next morning, Carol was born. And Miss Hardin got all over him from not bringing Clara too.
That makes sense, because you know, Raymond Carver's wife told me a story that I always wondered where David was at that time. Well,
She went to Mr. Hardin's, took him home with him.
Yeah, that's where he was at. When Carol was born, that's where he was at. And that's the reason why, and then on the way up there, I guess, he just left him, yeah. Well,
I left Clara at Raymond's.
Yeah, well, Raymond Carver's wife told me, said she'll never forget that when Daddy came in there, he just, or did you hear the story?
Yeah, she told me, go ahead. No.
Go ahead.
And, well, she said that he brought Clara in there, said she didn't wait, said knocked on the door and just come right on in, laid Clara on the sofa, said didn't wait till I got up, said he's done gone back out before she got to the baby. Said she just looked at me, said, and she took her in and put her to bed and said she went right back to sleep. She was afraid she was going to have a time out of her.
That's what she said.
And when she went in church Sunday morning, said she had Clara, and that the mom said, "Well, Alberta's got something." Yeah, but she had blue eyes till she was about 8 months old. The prettiest blue eyes you ever seen. And then they just seemed like they changed just about overnight. And somewhere in Bertha seen her, and she wasn't about 10 months old. And Bertha said, "I've been a lying about that kid." I said, "Why?" I said, "I've been telling she had blue eyes." I said, "She did up to 8 months." I said, "Then they changed." She said, "Well, I didn't lie," I said, "but still she ain't got the blue eyes now." She had the prettiest dark eyes. In Carol Ann, when she was born, they had me on the delivery table. Well, I told them, I said, "It's getting close," and so they put me on the delivery table. And because the doctor would check me, and he told her something other, but I didn't know what it was. But anyway, she fixed up and put that mask on my face for me to breathe. And the doctor come back in there to check me, and he had to catch Carol, keep her from hitting the floor. And when I went back to him in 6 weeks, he said, "I still get so nervous I can't stand it." Instead of thinking, if I hadn't walked around there, what had happened to that baby? Well, so what it was, I'd eat some bologna, and she put that on me. I got sick, and somehow or another, I got my head out of it, and it just vomited all over the floor. And when I was vomiting, I vomited her out too. I don't know, I had to go overnight with every one of you kids.
In the middle of the night?
Mm-hmm. Well, now, you and Neil was born in the daytime, but see, you was born 25 after 5, and then Neil was born, I don't know where it's about 10 minutes till 7 when he was born. But see, I had to go while it's still night. And
Who was the meanest of them all?
Fine, Steve.
He's a middle child, maybe.
There wasn't a thing that kid wouldn't do. moved, you got toys, him and all. That this tore up in a little while if I didn't keep an eye on him. He'd tear the girls' dolls all to pieces, see how this made on the inside. And Kevin's talking about Charlie James when he was so little. I said, well, honey, Charlie James not near as bad as Finest was when he was little. She said, Lord, how did you stand it? Fine Steve was born in January. And in towards the last of March, we was out planting potatoes down there in what we call the tater hole. And Ginger, he was just a barking like everything. I had to find Steve in the sled, covered up and all. And he was barking like everything. I said, there's something over there, that dog wouldn't be barking like that. And so I just dropped my bucket where I was dropping potatoes and everything, went over, and there's a snake. Got in there in the sled with him. And I went and picked up, grabbed up Fine Steve, and Ginger, right in that sled he went. See, we had the sideboards on it. No, not in that, he went and got that snake. And I told James, I said, we got to move this from here. See, he had sitting up on the hill in some grass. I said, we got to move this sled from here. So we took it down there to the end of the potato thing where we'd done planted potatoes, stuck it at the end of the potato row. Uh-huh.
Who delivered all of them?
Dr. Boyd, different ones delivered them. Never what doctor it was I was going to when I got pregnant, the one that delivered it. Dr. Shekels delivered more than any of them. He delivered Finus and Charlotte and JT.
When Fine Steve was born, where was you living at when he was born?
We was living over here at the old farm. See, when Carol was 8 or 9, 10 months old, anyway, it was in the fall. She's born in January, then his in the fall, that we moved over there. Well, your Uncle Finus bought him on James to run it. And then, see, he bought it from your Spears, Finus did, and then your daddy bought it from Finus. And then when Euler Spears' farm come up for sale where he lived, Uncle Finus got hit.
That's where he's at now?
Uh-huh. Lived in the same house, only they've added some onto it that Euler lived in. And see, Euler, he went and bought that little spot down where you have to turn right down there in Uncle Finus' barn. He bought that place and moved down there. So he just had, I don't know, it wasn't very much. For anyway, that field in front of his house is Uncle Finus's. And see, I'd had surgery and everything. Dr. Smith told me that he didn't think I could have it. I'd have to have surgery, have to be took. And so I went and told James, he wanted me to go to Dr. Shekels, and I told Dr. Shekels, he said, you better get you a doctor at Glasgow. And so we went over to the doctor, and then when he came, he just come right on. We hadn't been at the hospital just a few minutes over, but James, he wouldn't stop at Burkesville. I said, I ain't stopping down here if I'm going to have surgery. I said, they told me I might have to have surgery. I said, I ain't stopping. And he took me on then. Said, you didn't have to have surgery, you didn't have no problems. When I started, well now, they went and prepped me and everything, got me ready. And they took me to the commode. They'd give me an enema, took me to the commode for me to use it. And so I went and told them, I could feel the pressure so. I said, you better get me off of here if you don't fish the baby out of the commode. They said, no, I said, that's just pressure. I said, your bowel's moving. I said, no, it's not. And I kept arguing with him. And I said, just get me a bedpan, sit in there at my bed. And I said, my bowel starts to move, I'll use it. And they finally took me to my bed then. And I wasn't in there, I don't guess 10 minutes still. Nurse said, can you kind of tell he's a-coming? And I said, yeah, pretty well, when it gets a little closer. And she said, okay, so we'll get in here and fix up the delivery room, get everything arranged around and hid. And she said, you holler though, and we can hear you. And I hollered out, and she opened that door and looked in there. She said, Lord God. She said, help. And there was 4 of them running there and got my bed. Took me into the delivery room. See, my room was just right there, and take it in there, and there's the delivery room. You go through that door. He was standing up, way up there. Just like if he's laying down straight and sticking his feet up. But you, though, you got in a hurry when you started.
Was that right?
Yeah.
Did it take long?
Well, now that I went in, and then that 25 minutes, I believe it was, that you was there. Now, I remember the nurse telling James, said call the doctor. He said, you call the doctor and I'll get the, what is they call them things where they get you on? Stretcher. He said, I'll get that and you call the doctor. Said, I don't know nothing about these phones. And they had just changed the way they were anyway. The numbers and how you had to dial to get out and all such as that. And they didn't get me off of them stretchers till you was born. The doctor wasn't even there.
Grandma left us this spring. Behind she leaves instilled within us strong moral values and a sense of how important family can be.
Old tin roof, leaves in the gutter, hole in the screen door big as your fist and flies on the butter. Mama baking sugar cookies, we were watching cartoons. I heard her holler from the kitchen, which one of you young'uns wants to lick the spoon? Yellow jackets on the watermelon, a honeysuckle in the air. Daddy turning on the sprinkler, us kids running through it in our underwear. Old dog napping on the front porch, his hair just a twitching. I fell asleep on Granddaddy's lap to the sound of his pocket watch a ticking. Whoa, whoa, doesn't seem like it was all that long ago. Whoa, whoa, you can dream about it every now and then, but you can't go home again. Yeah, my best friend Jenny set up the back of your camp, stole one of Mama's mason jars, poked holes in the lid and made a firefly lamp. Me and Billy Monroe are sneaking down by the river, and I'm still haunted by the taste of the kiss I was too scared to give him. Whoa, whoa, it doesn't seem like it was all that long ago. Whoa, You can dream about it every now and then, but you can't go home again. But there's a blacktop road, a faded yellow center line. It can take you back to the place, but it can't take you back in time. Whoa, whoa, it doesn't seem like it was all that long ago. Dream about it every now and then, but you can't go home again. Whoa, whoa, it doesn't seem like it was all that long ago. Dream about it every now and then, but you can't go